Hello everyone, my name's Bobmich and welcome back to some Star Citizen McGubbins. With the latest build of the PTU, as I mentioned in a little update video I did last night, we've now got a tier 0 implementation of the maximum jump range on ship quantum drives. In short, if you're not currently partaking in the PTU, this now means that depending on the size of your ship and thus the size and quality of your ship's quantum drive, all ships will now have a maximum jump distance that they can achieve before the jump drive will spool down on its own and have to cool off for a few moments before you can spool it up and start another jump. Effectively meaning small ships will now have to hop across systems rather than just blast across in one big jump. Naturally, this has caused a bit of a ruckus on both Spectrum and the Star Citizen subreddit, and their herd of drama llamas has burst forth from the pen as opinion on this mechanic being implemented has gone a bit squiffy. I have my own personal opinion on this of course, but I fear it is going to be an unpopular one. Limiting the quantum drives is a good thing in the long run, and to be honest, was going to happen anyway. There's a few angles to look at this from. First is that even with all the advanced technology within this game, the ships aren't meant to be infinitely powered and thus infinitely be able to travel at a whim. Different drives will have different quality. They might also slowly lose jump distance as they wear over time, or they'll break altogether or get damaged in firefights. They also need fuel. Your ship size and composition will obviously determine how much fuel you can carry, as well as the size and quality of your drive as we just mentioned. This is vitally important. Take something like a Starfarer or a Caterpillar as flying examples, or a ship like the Genesis Starliner as a concept example. These ships are built to be purpose-built to cross larger distances than say your Gladius or your Sabre or Avenger. If you're flying a fighter, something like a Sabre, then fighter ships are meant to be staged from something else, like a planetary base or a local space station or even a carrier, the clue's in the name there. It isn't built to be able to cross an entire system under its own power. Ships like the Starfarer might have to do several jumps as well, but they will be longer jumps, the ones we're used to where we can have a P-break in the meantime. But they will be carrying the fuel which enables them to get there without having to stop altogether and refuel. Another angle is that I think we as players who have been playing the alpha from the outset are so used to the enclosed system that we've been flying in and around for so long that we're now starting to have assets to the game that really do show the scale of the area that we're flying in, as well as the distances involved that we have to cover. That we're beginning to have that moment you have in RPGs when you step out from the tiny starting area and into the world map for the first time. Think Ocarina of Time or Final Fantasy VII for that god-awful reference. Couple this with the fact that we've essentially had infinite quantum fuel this entire time, or at least enough fuel to cover the distances around Crusader effectively enough that it doesn't matter. This means that we haven't really begun to notice how travel might be affected over larger distances. Ultimately though, this mechanic is a good thing, and it, or something similar, as I said, was going to happen eventually. Let me give you my reasoning. Take the prospect of combat. And by combat I don't mean you and 9 mates chasing a hammerhead around the system a bit for giggles. I'm talking about full-on EVE Online-esque interstellar warfare. Imagine for a moment that you and your org are at war with some other cretins who didn't invite you to the Christmas party. Your organisation wants to take ArcCorp on Yela because it has hydrogen that can blow things up. You and your org, however, aren't on Yela, you're not on Daymar, you're not even on Hurston, you're 4 systems away. Now, if it was you and your 9 mates, in the alpha sandbox style mode that we're used to before this mechanic became a thing in the X build, you could just shoot straight for the base, bouncing between a few planets and moons, laughing all the way, then blow away the defences, land and FPS your way into the building and call it a night. Fun, for sure, but a few runs of this and it would get repetitive as all hell. Now consider the same scenario with this max jump distance mechanic in further down the game's pipeline. If you and your 9 buddies wanted to take ArcCorp, your Sabres wouldn't be able to get there without making umpteen stops at rest stops to refuel, which would make your stealthy approach as equally moot as strapping floodlights onto your ships with "We are here" engraved into the headlamps. So, with the prospect of huge travel time and intel working against you, you need better transport. So instead, your team of 10 decides to chuck your Sabres into a number of Idrisai, maybe even a Javelin or 2. You're now moving as a strike force. You need to plan, you need to strategize, and you need to utilize logistics. You need to coordinate more to make sure that everyone gets there in one piece to deal with threats on the way. Maybe, just maybe, your capitals are going to need fuel as well as your fighters. This means that you need to take a Starfarer Gemini along with you to keep the tanks topped up. Now you've got that to protect as well. Maybe you've also got something like an Apollo on side as well for casualties. That needs protecting as well. All the while you need to move as a group to make sure no one's max jump distance is leaving them behind the rest of the fleet and making them a moving loot pinata. On and on it goes. Max jump distance is just one of the mechanics that will make everyone who wants to do that kind of warfare have to think a lot more and need to plan ahead. We won't have the frame shift drives of Elite Dangerous to system hop as much as we do now. We have to plan our trips just as you would in a car. War is only one aspect of it. Exploration is another one. Ships like the Carrack, which are literally built to fly into deep space where there are no truck stops, are going to need that giant jump distance and bigger fuel tanks so it validates their purpose. Let me know what you think. Keep in mind that this is only the very first run of the beginning of the implementation of this mechanic at the moment, so calling it unbalanced is hardly fair. It needs tweaking and adjustment, but keep an open mind as we watch it grow, and plan for war because that's fun and it's content. Thank you for listening, guys. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you next time.